Hey guys, Sax here. Let's break down the loadouts that I use to solo flawless Sundered Doctrine on Archetytan. So this is a loadout that revolved around Peregrine Greaves and the Peregrine Strike, which gives you the bonus damage when you're in the air and you use a melee that has a shoulder charge type effect. So this would be like your seismic slam, shield bash, things of that sort. And so this also revolved around the fact of using a weapon like Kvastov, which could clear a lot of enemies at the same time, ricocheting those bullets, using something like Indebted Kindness, which has been the GOAT since it came out. You can see over 15,000 kills on this one in particular, and this isn't the first one that I had. And then finally, the sword is just a utility, so just to be able to get around faster. Everyone knows that first encounter is a bit of a slog, and so as you're trying to go through, just trying to find any way to move a little more efficiently and get through there. And so the concept of Peregrine Greaves, though, let's get specific about it. Peregrine Strike, that is the buff, or that is the feature of this exotic that's going to allow you to one-shot the subjugators in the corner rooms. And now the things to be specifically aware of, you want to make sure that you're not, you are in the air and you are seeing the Peregrine Strike buff that pops up on the bottom left side of your screen before you try to use it. Now, if you hit an enemy with your melee, and let's say it is not a tormentor, a champion, or a mini boss, which these subjugators are considered mini bosses, you will lose your melee. So you get the kill, but you'll lose your melee. And so you want to be mindful when you're going into these rooms, that you're really hyper specific on these on these subjugators. Go ahead and clear out some of the other enemies. If you're concerned about it, or you have tracking issues, or you find that you're not hitting the subjugators for that one shot, it might be worth pausing for a second. If you're on Archetytan, I'm assuming you're using Storm's Keep because it's pretty much broken right now. Drop that shield down, and then you would be able to clear out very easily some of these other enemies, and then you can use that shoulder charge, or the seismic strike, as it would be, to get the clear. And so you'll get the lenses immediately, you'll put them down, do all that. And so I have loved using bringing out some old exotics, and you'll see on some of these loadouts. So these are the mods that I had. The last thing I'll say about this is I was using mods in here that would allow for a lot of orb generation. Ask me why that is. Why would you do that? The reason for that are these two mods that are on my boots, Recuperation and Better Already. These two will allow you to get immediate healing, a burst of healing, and then start your healing process at the same time. And so as we're going through, you're going to kill a lot of Husk, you're going to kill a lot of the Scion-esque enemies, the Stasis and the Strand Boys. And so as you're doing that, and you're getting multi-kills, we want to generate as many orbs on the field as possible, so that as you're just running through, you are passively picking these orbs up, and you're generating health as you move. You don't have to really change how you're playing. And the other thing I will say is you don't want to use your melee as often as you will in other encounters, because you're trying to save it for these Peregrine Strikes on the subjugators. So once again, these are all the mods that I'm using, and I'm using these specifically for first encounter, and then I use them for the transition areas, so the different areas that you're moving between encounters. And then once again, the weapons I use, Kvastov, Indebted Kindness, and then just an eager-edged sword of any kind has worked for me, but I just use the other half here. And so let's go into the Zoetic lock set and have a discussion about this one. So you will see I have two sister loadouts that I do swap between. I know it's a big conversation right now in the Destiny community about, okay, should swapping loadouts, is that a fun way to play the game? Is that thing? I find it as an expression of skill. It's a part of it. I'll find a different way to express skill when and if it becomes something that Bungie doesn't want us to do anymore. But for now, it's the meta. It's how we play. It's how you play to the best of your ability, and it's kind of a built-in skill gap there, just being able to do that. And so, I'm not saying anyone has to do it, but this is something that I did utilize, and you would see if you watch my full video. So I set this one up with these three weapons. I use Fatebringer because everyone who knows me knows that Fatebringer is my favorite gun of all time. Aberrant Action, mostly for the healing properties of heal clip, get a kill, reload, get that cure going. And then finally, it also matches with Parasite. So Parasite and Thunder Crash, those are your main damage dealing methods for this encounter. And so the approach that I took, I'm not saying it's necessarily the right approach, but it's the approach I took, was to do short micro damage phases of heavy burst damage. Just get that damage out and then get out of there so that you can assess the situation and you can go back. And so you say, Sax, how do I do that? How you do that is you look and you assess immediately upon the encounter starting. You look at the far right wheel. When you see the wheel, you will find and identify where kill is on that wheel. And you're going to look at the top where you start, and you're going to count how many symbols to either the left or the right. Now, you want to look and see which direction the wheel is rotating. You may have to shoot that little nut at the top. Let's say the wheel is rotating to the right, but you need to go 3 to the left. You shoot the little nut at the top above the wheel. That will rotate it to the left. And then you're going to have to grab as many knowledge that the wizards drop that you need to move it. So if you need 3, you're going to have to beeline for all 3 of the wizards when they spawn in so you can do it. And so you say, what's the urgency? The urgency is you're going to look at the top and you're going to see there's a meter at the top of your screen that says lock set progression. Lock set progression will basically count up and fill in a bar that's has 4 quarters of it. And when you hit that 3rd quarter being full, or 75%, you need to be done with having that wheel set onto kill, because that's when the lock is going to look at the wheel and it's going to see that and say, oh, it's go time. Like, they want to do damage. And so we got to be quick. Okay. So with that, how do we be quick? How do we do this safely? Using Insurmountable Skullfort and Thunderclap, it is very easy to take out large groups of ads, specifically the Grim that are flying around that can kind of suppress you. It's very easy if you get a couple shots in, especially with the rocket sidearm. If you get a rocket sidearm shot in on the wizards as they're spawning in, you use a Thunderclap. If you charge it up at all, you're going to one-shot them, be able to pick them up very quickly. You're going to get amplified, meaning you can move through the arena faster. With this loadout, let's look here at the mods that I have on here. So I've already shown you the weapons. However, I'm looking here. This is something that I may change, and I may suggest what I would do to change this loadout from what I used is I may take this strength mod off. I'm at 92 strength, but Insurmountable Skullfort, if you're not familiar with it, arc melee kills grant you health. So sort of like a compounding effect on top of knockout, already using knockout. And so, which will give you and start healing you a big burst of damage and start healing you as soon as you get a melee kill. So Insurmountable Skullfort, we're just going to stack that on top of knockout. And then on top of that, it gives you a full melee charge when you get a kill with it. And so you ask me, it's like, well, why do I need 90 strength? You don't at that point. And that's something I didn't recognize and what I would probably change. Just as we were talking about in the first encounter, where I'm generating orbs all over the arena, through my siphon mods, things of that sort. I decided that it was more important for me to generate super energy from those melee kills, and I was finding in some of my practice runs I was running out of heavy ammo. And so dropping the heavy ammo or having a heavy ammo finder, hands-on mods, I found that was a very effective way to make sure I was prepared for what I was doing. And then because you're doing these micro damage phases, what I mean by that is because the lock set progression, you have 3 of the quarters are already full, and you get that last quarter to do damage. You need to be as efficient as possible doing damage to the lock set. How do you do that? You have Parasite ready with times 20 Worm's Hunger. You will fire that as soon as it becomes damageable. There is a little place. I was on the right-hand side of the arena. There's a little place on the wall where you can see it's kind of like protruding out. Hitting that between the 2 locks, the 2 shriekers that are of the lock on the right-hand side, allows that explosion to damage both of them. essentially doubling your damage from that parasite shot. And then as soon as you shoot that parasite shot, you want to thunder crash in and hit the boss with that thunder crash. How do we get even more damage squeaked out of that? You would use a solar holster on your boots. And so what this does for you is you fire your parasite, you thunder crash, and then after you hit your thunder crash, you will hear, if you listen closely, in the time that it took for you to land your thunder crash, your parasite has reloaded. And so as you're falling back down to the ground, you can fire off your parasite again and hit them. Now it won't have times 20, it won't have any Worm's Hunger on it, so it'll just be a base parasite shot, but it gives you the ability to do that. And so I ran around with this loadout here with Insurmountable the majority of the encounter. However, right before damage, I would switch to this loadout here. The only difference here is I put 2 solar damage resistance on these, and then I still had that solar holster on, allowing me to do that. So that is the biggest thing here. Pretty much across the board was all the same. Again, I would probably just swap. This loadout would bring it down to 72. I don't think that matters. Again, it's the same idea where I'm not going to be moving around the arena very much with this loadout. This is literally just for damage. As soon as you're done with damage, you go find a safe place. You quickly switch to it. If you're going to run around with this all the time, you would need a higher melee stat so you could get that back faster, but that's a completely different build. And let's talk about the final encounter now. So final encounter, we go into fight Kevin or Karev, however you want to actually use his name, but we call him Kevin around these parts. So let's talk about the prep for this one. Throughout the arena, when I'm moving around, when I'm doing anything, I'm just trying to figure out the truths and the lies and put that into the wheel. I'm running around with Heart of Inmost Light just so I can get as many barricades, grenades, melees as possible, and just keep spamming them because they all have utility. They all have offensive utility, which is really what you need. So they say, you know, best offense is great defense. I feel like it's the other way. Best defense is a great offense. If you can deal outgoing damage, you are going to be much safer in this final encounter. And so it's important to do that. So let's look at some of the mods that were on this build here. Now, Siphon mods here, again, Orb Generation, I'm a big fan of Recuperation Better Already. You're almost always going to see that on my builds when I'm doing some sort of in-game content, whether it be contest mode, master difficulty, a lot of just raids. You know, if I'm Sherpaing and taking people through, I want to make sure that I'm staying alive so that I can help them have the best experience possible. And so doing that, generating orbs through the Siphon mods, heavy-handed. I have a Reaper mod on here. This usually doesn't leave my loadout now that Storms Keep because I'm throwing so many barricades up, just generating these orbs. And one of my favorite weapons in the game, you know, obviously Fatebringer, but I love this Vulpecula that I got back in Season of the Lost. Shoot to loot, explosive payload, having the ability to take out, match the damage, or match the energy of the stasis, you know, boys that are coming out that give you the buff that lets you shoot all the little strand tangles or what have you. I find that highly effective. So the damage boost from that, and then the explosive payload allowing you to shoot them from across the arena and do effective damage is great. If you don't have this gun, you could use something that's kind of an equivalent. You could use something else with shoot to loot on it. If you don't really care that much about shoot to loot, you could do just an explosive payload weapon. You know, what have you. You could use something like a, you know, like the Auto from Root of Nightmares. Name slipping me right now, but maybe you can tell me in the comments. Again, I went back to Embedded Kindness. I just find the Volt Shot utility is just incredible. And then Queenbreaker, it's incredible this season. So with Particle Reconstruction, just having a built-in debuff on the boss, you know, for being a full arc titan, there's not really a great way to debuff while you're doing it better than this. So you will see I use this a lot. And so just having Queenbreaker on me so I can get the heavy accrued and as I'm moving. And then the final loadout that I used, actually, let me talk one more thing about this loadout. So the only problem that I have with this loadout is that I didn't leave a spot for orb holding for like the armor charges. And so what you'll see that I did, if you watch the full clear, you will see that I had to manually go in and switch to a weapon surge. And this was leading into damage. And the reason I did this is so that I could kind of prep and preload myself with some armor charges. Now, I did have 3 arc weapon surge mods on my damage loadout, but I didn't have a way to do this. So I would find a safe space that I could do, throw my shield up, Storm's Keep shield up, take a knee behind it, switch this real quick. It's not the optimal way to play. I would say, because you're in there solo, you're generating so much heavy, you might not even need this arc scavenger, and you could just keep the weapon surge on at all times. It's up to you. It's up to you. How do you want to do that? If you're going to be utilizing your primary more, like you'll see I did a lot with Vulpecula, I could have a stasis weapon surge just to get those on, and then when I flip for damage, I would flip that over to the triple arc reserve. So let's look at this last loadout. So again, keeping the same first 2 weapons here, or keeping all 3 weapons rather. And then let's look at what has changed. So Heart of Inmost Light is gone. Curious of the Flying Star is on. I went on here, I just went all in on, when I have this loadout on, all I'm doing with it is damage. So I went triple harmonic targeting to get the arc targeting. I went harmonic dexterity and loader. You could switch these if you want to. You could have 2 loaders and a dexterity. It doesn't really matter, especially if you're behind the rally barricade. If you take a knee, you reload incredibly fast anyways. And if you have the Queenbreaker Catalyst, you're going to be reloading very often, or you won't be reloading as often because of rewind rounds. And finally, triple arc weapon surge, and then double time dilation. So just everything you can to pump as much damage as humanly possible out. You will see in my run, my final boss phase, it was a little scuffed because he wouldn't come close enough for me to thunder crash him every time. So I only thunder crashed him, I think, twice, just for safety purposes and things of that sort. In practice runs, I had done many more thunder crashes. However, he wasn't in a great place for weapon damage. So I kind of traded those off this time, which was fine. I would rather play it safe and do a lot of weapon damage than try to rely on all, ability damage. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions or anything, please leave a comment below. If you like this, you find this helpful at all, this kind of content, leave a like, and hey, maybe subscribe if you've made it this far in the video. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day.